Hi everyone, it's Cherie from 12 by 12 Cardstock Shop, and today we're going to make this bee gnome. He came from the file Bee Gnomes from MarjorieAnnDesigns.com, and there is coordinating paper with him, which I used for hexagon shape photomats. I imported him into Cricut Design Space with a width of 11.0, and I let the height auto adjust. In this video, we are going to cover all of the paper colors and the gluing order. So there are several ways you can look at your file that you're going to be putting together. I sometimes put it on my tablet, other times it's on my computer, and sometimes I do print it out. The good thing with printing out is you can overlay your stripes or pieces you're not sure where they go onto your printout or on your tablet, and also you can edit your printout. On the bottom yellow part, I put dots on him because I'm not sure if I'm going to put that on my finished piece or not, and I wanted to see how it looked. I've done it on bees, but not on the gnomes. But I didn't want to do it to the piece in case I didn't like it, so it's just good to doodle on and also for a guide. Now, this is not a set way you have to do it. This is just the way I put my pieces together. I've been scrapbooking for over 20 years. Here's the coordinating papers from Marjorie Ann Designs that I used for the hexagons. But what I try to do with my pieces is I glue all my smaller pieces together first if I'm able to. So for instance, we're going to start with the honey dipper. And I'm zooming in because it is less than 2 inches. It's about 2 inches tall, but those pieces are less than 1/4 inch thick, so I just don't want anybody not to be able to see it with a clear view. It did take me a minute to zoom back out, and you'll see, but I corrected it when it comes to his shoes. What you're going to do is glue the top and the bottom strip on first, and then the middle, then you fill in the middle. If you're really good at eyeballing the spaces, you can go from top to bottom or bottom to top. I'm giving it the easiest way for you guys to have pretty set spaces that are even in between. And if you're really technical, you can find some way to measure them, but that's just a little bit too much for me. I'm okay with them being a little bit off. We'll go in and shade everything after. Now for the honey, the word, it does cut out in Cricut Design Space, but I ended up just having it written onto my pot because I didn't feel like fussing around with tiny letters. And here's where I forgot to zoom back out and I caught it afterwards. You're going to glue the oval rim onto your pot, and it is all the same color paper, which is going to be hazelnut. The sole of his shoes and my pot, along with my honey dipper, are all in the hazelnut color. All I did was ink that inner part to appear darker because it is going to be covered by the honey. Now my yellow honey and the yellow for him is all in Honey Bear by Encore paper. And the hazelnut is Encore, I forgot to mention. There I was saying I got a little bit of glue that protruded out from underneath because I had a little bit too much on one spot. And you can use just a silicone tool, that's what they're called. They're in the clay making. I did use vellum for the wings, and what I did is I cut them out a little bit smaller and I traced around them to give them some definition, just because even inking them, they do sometimes fade away into the background. I should be zooming out here in just a moment. I apologize. I had already started gluing them together and recording, and it is kind of hard to go in and cut out more and ink them just for this one spot. So we're going to start with the soles of the shoes, and I'm going to zoom out here in just a moment, I promise. Now, there's a divot on the bottom of the shoe and a flat part on the top. There we go. And the divot is going to go on the bottom there. And the flat part will go to the inside of him. But we're going to start by gluing, like I said, the honey dipper and the pot together. You can go on and glue those letters on if you didn't draw them on yourself or have your Cricut or Silhouette pen. I don't run a Silhouette, I run a Cricut, so I'm not sure if Silhouette has the same options that Cricut and some of the other machines do, just because I ran Cricut since about 2005. You ask me Cricut questions, I can help you forever and ever, but any of the other machines, I'm clueless and would have to Google it or get it on YouTube, because I learned a lot from watching Jennifer Maker on YouTube. And that is one thing I suggest, is get familiar with what your program, your cutting machine's program is capable of doing, because there is a lot. Those hexagon shapes, if you don't have a hexagon die, you can cut them out from the shapes that are allotted in Cricut Design Space. Now, there are a lot of embellishments or accessories for bee gnomes. Honeybee Stamps has them, and also Photoplay. You can just Google. At the end, I will show you a bee charm that I'm going to glue down to my honey pot, and I got that from Etsy. But also, Honeybee Stamps has little wooden bees. I have a bunch of them. I just don't know where in my dream box they are, as my dream box is huge, and the little pack is so small they could really be anywhere. So now that we got the soles of the shoes on, we're going to put the shoes on and glue the yellow base down, well, the yellow body to the base. And what I did is I lined up the stripes on my drawing from the first gnome bee I put together. That way I knew where they went. Your fatter stripes are going to go on the bottom, and the thinner ones are going to go on the hat. Now we're going to glue all of his stripes onto his body, and these are in the color Jet Black by Encore. Another thing that I want to mention is the smooth white cardstock is the color Coconut Swirl by Basil, and it is great for stamping and die cuts. If you are a card maker or somebody that loves stamps and die cuts, that is the best one I found for multiple purposes with crafting with paper. I did use snowy white Encore paper for his beard, mustache, and base. But the little bee that I stamped out of my die cut with my stamp that says "Just Because," "Hello Nomi," and "Happy Bee Day" are on the Coconut Swirl by Basil. But snowy white is Encore. I'm slowly transitioning over to Encore paper because I noticed that my corners cut a lot cleaner than most other papers. I still use a lot of my American Crafts paper, as it's been around for a very long time and it is one of my favorites, but Encore is slowly winning my heart over. And their papers are very similar in color to the American Crafts line, but I do like that some of them aren't as bright. They're a little bit darker, so if you hold up Encore's Hazelnut and compare it to American Crafts Caramel, it is a little darker, and I do like that in some of the colors. So now back to our piecing. We got all the stripes on his body. You are going to glue the beard and the mustache down, and then the hat. I put his arms behind, and then I noticed my one arm was higher than the other, but the right side doesn't really matter because it's going to be hidden behind the teapot. And technically, I think it should have been out as far as straight, but I did it rounded behind him just because I wasn't going to put his hand where the end of his arm should have been, and I didn't want it showing behind my honey pot. After you get his hat down, you can do the stripes before you put the hat on or after, it's up to you. I used my printout as my guideline, and there you see me using my silicone tool just to get the glue off from where it protrudes from the bottom. Just sometimes, that's why I try not to go to the longer edges, is because if you put any pressure, sometimes you can push the glue out. I do recommend, though, not gluing from edge to edge on the longer sides. Try to focus down the middle and to the smaller edges just to ensure that you don't have a big mess of glue. And that's just from years of practice. I've learned not to glue to my edges on something that's going to go over another piece, such as letters. So here's the vellum wings, and I went with vellum, just, it was something I wanted to do. And like I said, I just took a scrapbook safe pen. It's an archival pen by Zigzag, and I went around the wings. That way it will stay and not fade over time. All of my inks are Memento, for the most part. There are some that Memento doesn't have, and I did go with another archival, which is going to be Tim Holtz, but stick to the Distress inks, not the Distress Oxide. Distress Oxide does fade, and your Distress does not. It is permanent and fade resistant. That is very important in scrapbooking if you're going to start inking. I pulled out a piece from about 5 years ago that I used ink that didn't say fade resistant because it was new to me. I had taken a long hiatus from scrapbooking, and the trend was now inking instead of chalking. I did not know that there was a difference in the inks because the videos I watched, nobody mentioned it. So Memento and your Tim Holtz Distress inks are going to be your best friend if you want your ink to be permanent and last forever, basically, because it's fade resistant. Now, after I glued his nose on, I went ahead and put my honey pot on and my honey dipper. And there is no perfect placement. I just put the hands on before I glue it all down so I don't have to push as hard and cause indentation in my cardstock. Here's the hexagons. You can put them in any order. You don't have to use hexagons. You can use pattern paper or plain paper. It's up to you. Here's some examples of stamps with dies from honeybees.com or honeybeestamps.com. And then this is the photo play, more stamps and dies. There are tons of options for additives to your paper piecings. Now, here's the bee charms I mentioned in the beginning, and I just snip off the top of them with a metal wire cutter, and I'm going to glue him right onto my honey pot. I am going to use a honeycomb stamp and print on my honey bear paper with black archival ink for photo mats as well, just to change it up and add some other things. But this is just an example for you guys. Thank you for watching and have a good day.